Sasha had always been a casual Instagram user. She loved posting pictures of her travels, her morning coffee, and her adventures with friends. It wasn't long before she accumulated a decent following. Nothing huge, but enough to keep her entertained. She thought Instagram was just a platform to share her life, connect with people, and browse through the endless content. But she never imagined it could become something dangerous, something sinister. It all started innocently enough. A message popped into her DMs one evening while she was scrolling through her feed. The profile picture was a stylish, rugged-looking guy, his bio brief and mysterious. Photographer, traveler, dreamer. His handle was @WonderWithLucas. Hey, I love your profile. You've got a great eye for photography. Maybe we could collaborate sometime. I travel a lot too. Sasha smiled. Lucas' message seemed genuine, and since she was trying to grow her Instagram presence, she didn't think twice before responding. Thanks, Lucas. I'd love that. Where are you based? Lucas replied quickly, and they started chatting. At first, it was all about photography, travel tips, and their favorite places to visit. Lucas shared beautiful shots from exotic locations, misty mountains, sunlit beaches, and vibrant cityscapes. His feed was impressive. Over the next few weeks, their conversations deepened. They shared stories about their lives, passions, and dreams. Sasha found herself looking forward to Lucas' messages. His wit, charm, and subtle flirtation in their conversations became the highlight of her day. But there was always something slightly off. For starters, Lucas never seemed to post new content. His photos, though breathtaking, were all older posts. And whenever Sasha would ask about his recent travels, he would say he was in between trips, planning the next adventure. He never posted any Instagram stories, never tagged locations, and despite all the talk about traveling, he never seemed to mention where he was right now. One evening, after another long chat, Lucas sent a message that made Sasha pause. I feel like I know you so well already. It's crazy how much we've connected through just words and pictures, isn't it? Sasha stared at the message. She did feel a connection to him, but suddenly, something about it made her uncomfortable. It felt a little too intimate, too soon. She shrugged it off as a misunderstanding. Maybe it was harmless. Then things got weird. Lucas began to ask about her whereabouts, where she was hanging out, what time she usually went out, and who she spent time with. The first few times, Sasha answered vaguely, not thinking much of it. But one day, she noticed a car following her while she was driving home. It stayed behind her for a good 15 minutes. Turning every corner she did, panic set in. But when she pulled into a busy grocery store parking lot, the car sped off. Her heart pounded as she sat in her car, trying to calm herself. She chalked it up to paranoia, but she couldn't shake the eerie feeling. Later that night, Lucas messaged her again. Did you have a good time at the grocery store today? Sasha froze. She hadn't mentioned going to the grocery store to him or anyone. Her fingers trembled as she typed back. How do you know? I went to the grocery store. His reply was instant. Lucky guess. The unease she had been ignoring for a few weeks now hit her full force. She realized she had never video chatted with Lucas, never seen him post a recent picture, never even heard his voice. For all she knew, Lucas wasn't who he said he was. Sasha decided to confront him. Lucas, I don't think we should talk anymore. I've got a weird feeling about all this. For a moment, there was silence. Then, 3 dots appeared, showing he was typing. Her heart raced as she waited. Don't be ridiculous, Sasha. I thought we are friends. You are just overthinking things. No, this is too much, she typed, her hands shaking. Please don't message me again. She blocked him, her heart still pounding as she stared at her phone. She tried to go about her evening, but her mind was clouded with unease. It felt like someone was watching her. For the next few days, she couldn't shake the feeling that was being followed. Every time she glanced out of a window or checked her rear view mirror, she swore she saw the same shadowy figure just out of sight. And then the note started showing up, slipped under her door, tucked into her mailbox, left on her car windshield. Each one contained just 2 words. Miss me? Sasha was terrified. She changed her number, deleted her Instagram account, and even stayed with friends for a while, hoping the nightmare would end. But the notes kept coming. No matter where she went, they followed her. Desperate, Sasha decided to hire a private investigator to look into Lucas. The investigator worked quickly, tracing the photos Lucas had used on his profile. What he discovered sent chills down Sasha's spine. The photos Lucas had posted weren't his. They were all stolen from various online portfolios and travel blogs. There was no Lucas. Whoever had been messaging her had been using a fake identity all along. Then the investigator gave her the worst news of all. Sasha, I've traced the IP address of the person who's been messaging you. All the activity, it's been coming from your own town. In fact, from just a few blocks away. Sasha's heart dropped. Whoever this person was, they weren't some distant stranger. They were close, very close. That night, Sasha sat in her living room, every light in the house on, phone in hand, waiting for the police. Her heart raced with every creak, every shadow that moved outside. The minutes felt like hours, and then there was a knock on the door. She held her breath. Slowly, she approached and looked through the peephole. It was the police. Relief washed over her as she opened the door. But as the officer stepped inside, she noticed something strange. One of them, the taller one, had a slight smile on his face. And when he spoke, his voice was all too familiar. Hey Sasha, long time no see. It was Lucas. Sasha's mouth went dry. She stepped back, heart racing as her mind tried to make sense of what was happening. The officer, Lucas, looked and stepped forward, still smiling that unsettling, all too familiar smile. You didn't think you could get rid of me that easily, did you? He whispered, his voice sending chills down her spine. The second officer, noticing her reaction, looked between Sasha and his partner, confusion crossing his face. Sasha, are you all right? He asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. Sasha's eyes darted to the second officer as a sense of survival kicked in. She gathered every bit of strength she had and shouted, "He's not who he says he is. This is the man who's been stalking me." The second officer's face dropped, and he immediately drew his gun, pointing it at his so-called partner. "Is this true?" he demanded, his voice cold and tense. Lucas' charming facade slipped. His expression shifted from calm to furious in an instant. In that terrifying moment, Sasha saw the truth behind his carefully crafted persona. He wasn't a man in love. He was an obsessed predator, someone who had manipulated and deceived her with every message. "You don't understand," Lucas said, his voice now filled with anger and desperation. "She was practically begging for my attention. Every picture, every message, she wanted this." "Get on the ground now," the second officer commanded, his voice steady but filled with urgency. For a moment, Lucas hesitated, his gaze flickering between Sasha and the officer. Sasha's heart pounded as she braced for the worst. But after a tense standoff, Lucas slowly lowered himself to his knees, realizing he was caught. As the officer handcuffed Lucas and led him away, Sasha felt a wave of relief and shock wash over her. She watched as they disappeared into the night, unable to believe what has just happened. The horror that had been haunting her, the stranger who had wormed his way into her life through the safety of her phone, was finally over. Days later, Sasha sat in a quiet cafe, slowly sipping her coffee. The police had informed that Lucas wasn't a real officer. He'd managed to pose as one just long enough to manipulate his way into her home. His obsession with her had gone far beyond social media, and he had been watching her every move from close by. Sasha looked down at her phone, now cleared of any trace of her social media accounts. She had taken down all her online profiles, changed her number, and even considered moving to a new city to start fresh. But despite everything, there was one last thing she needed to do. She pulled out a journal and began to write about her experience, determined to remember the lessons she had learned. "The internet may seem like a safe place to meet new people," she wrote. "But it's easy to forget that behind every profile is a real person, and not everyone is who they claim to be." As Sasha closed the journal, she felt a sense of closure. She had come out of this nightmare stronger, with a clear lesson for anyone willing to listen. Always be cautious about who you let into your life, even through something as small as direct message. Moral from this story: be cautious about the people you meet online. Not everyone is who they claim to be. It's easy to get caught up in the fantasy of perfect strangers on social media, but the truth is, behind the screen, anyone can fabricate a life, a persona, or an identity. Trust your instincts, protect your personal information, and be mindful of how much access you give to strangers. The internet, while connecting us, can also be a dangerous place if we aren't careful. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this story. Please subscribe, like, and share. Stay tuned for more stories coming. Bye!